Welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Cato. It's been almost a week since the US and Israel attacked Iran. The operation has now expanded and escalated with no signs of slowing down. The obvious questions are what comes next for Iran, the Middle East, what are the broader goals for the operation, and how will they be reached? But now on World Talks, we want to explore where the Gulf states stand on this situation and what this current Middle East crisis means for the Abrahamic Accords of 2020. To tell us more, I am joined by Frank Musmar, Advisory Board Member of the Abrahamic Business Circle. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hello.
So I wanted to begin by asking how stunned the Gulf states are by the level of escalation of this crisis. It's been a week since the war began. Did anyone really expect this war to last so long, to go this far?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. If they never expected it, they've been really wrong. Like, they've been mistaken. You know, at the beginning, the Gulf states, the Gulf allies, specifically Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Oman, all of them, they lobbied the administration of the United States to control the escalation, reflecting, of course, you know, the shared concern about the stability and security of the area. And based on that, the United States agreed and tried to take the negotiation with Iran into Istanbul. And of course, Iran would like to show the Iranian people that they are rivals to the United States, so insisted to go on face-to-face negotiation through their mediators in Oman, and then they moved it to Geneva. And of course, all that was just to show the Iranian people that they are rivals to the United States. Of course, you know, they consider the United States, that's how they promote the United States, as the biggest devil enemy. And to them, it was just like, you know, buying time, stalling. That's what's good about the Iranians. But in the meantime, you know, the Arab states, they were trying to, knowing that Iran could escalate, they're trying to contain the situation by asking that favor from the United States, which is anyway, Iran denied. And in the meantime, the United States accept the retaliation, not to be through the Arab states using their baselands in there. They brought third of the marine forces of the United States to the sea, trying to attack Iran from the sea, avoiding the side effects and conflicts that might reach the Arabic countries. But in the meantime, we know that the Iranian regime is an expansion regime, and their target is the Middle East, and eventually it'll be expected. So if they never expected it, they've been mistaken big time.
And looking at the situation that we have been observing for the past week from the perspective of the Gulf countries, is this war mainly about Israel and Iran, or do you feel that these countries could actually be dragged in sooner rather than later? And where do they stand on this?
The United States is trying to create a peace-based economy in the Middle East. And you cannot build a fortress of peace on unresolved threats. So you must clear the ground first. That's what's going on now. So the threat, it comes from Iran. Now, if we want to compare Iran to Israel, both of them has interest in the Middle East. We cannot consider any of them better than the other, because at the end, countries not justified by emotions, justified by strategical interest. Now, if we want to combine the interests of the United States and America, it's different, because for Israel is regional. Israel is more affected by the ballistic missiles and the Iranian militias, while the United States has the strategic ambitions, that being, you know, the number one empire in the world, and they would like to tackle the influence of China and Russia. And if you remember the consequences of events, the United States targeting China through Panama Canal, then through Venezuela, then through Iran, knowing that 80% of the Iranian oil going to China. So maybe there is some mutual benefits between both parties, but at the end, the United States is strategical interest, Israel is regional interest.
Very interesting. And now I wanted to ask a little bit about the Abrahamic Accords that were signed in 2020. The purpose was to reshape the Middle East, to normalize relations between Israel and the Arab world. And now we have this war that is escalating. Do you believe that this war is putting this entire project at risk? Is this going to be a regression of sorts? Are we going into a situation that we're entering a dynamic that is really a pre-Abraham Accords reality?
Well, let's ask ourselves the question: where in the world this idea of the Abraham Accord came from? Just to understand the complexity of the Middle East. The people in the Middle East have never lived in an ethnically isolated groups. The whole region, for a long time over the history, they lived under centralized imperial system. So the borders of the Middle East that we know now, it exists after the control of France and England and the imperial system, that they draw those maps that was created after the Second World War to control the oil. So basically that's what happens in the Middle East. So every single country in the Middle East is now trying to establish its own interests, its own geopolitics in the Middle East. One of them is Iran. And Iran, over history, it was the Persian Empire. And based on that, we know that after the 1979 economic problem with the Shah system, it was like a revolution based on economy. It wasn't Islamic revolution, but the Islamic revolution ride on it and changed it into an Islamic revolution and created basic system that based on expanding that revolution into the Middle East. So it's a Persian expansion using a system that riding the Shiite part or sects of Islam over the Middle East. And eventually they're going to be within a problem. And we see that with the Arab Sunnis, and we see that through what happens of their expansion in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza in Palestine or Israel, and then in Yemen with the Houthis proxies. So was it expected that those countries are going to attack the Arabic Sunni countries? Of course, because they feeling that they are losing the control or the grip or the dream of a future Persian Empire in the Middle East. That's what's happening. Now, based on that and based on that division of the imperial system that divided the country based on interest for the foreign countries, especially the oil, the only thing to combine those people together is through economy. So that's the idea behind bringing the Abraham Accord to the system. Other than that, each country is trying to isolate itself and trying to create a geopolitics for itself. It's impossible to get all those people together in the Middle East without a system based on economy.
Now, I wanted to ask about your opinion on how Israel perceives the Gulf states in its broader strategy for the Middle East.
Of course, most Arab people, they kind of market Israel in a different way, to be honest with you. And I'm not here in a way that I'm defending or, supporting any party.
Sure.
But to understand the situation, most Arabic countries are trying to show that Israel is the expansion, with expansion dream, the country that is trying to control the Middle East. But eventually, once you create a political system or economical system, you will find like more strength and weakness based on each country, GDP and infrastructures and so forth. But the idea of the Abraham Accord was like, a combination of like oil producing countries, kind of like advanced technological countries, advanced manufacturer countries. So that will combine, as an example, Turkey with Israel, Egypt, Iran, if they would like to accept that idea, and the Gulf states. So that's the idea. Now, the expansion is not really, I don't say it exists anymore. Why? Because if occupying countries, pair borders, and creating what's called global Israel or big Israel or anything really exist and applicable, this means like you're going to see now the colonies still exist from, the side of England and France. Why they left? Because nowadays the war is economical war. It's not an actual soldier war, unless you have to go that direction. And that's what's going on now with Iran, because we're trying to create economy, and those are, with kind of authoritarian regimes and theocratic regimes like Iranian, they don't accept that fact. So the idea, we have to clean the ground to be able to create that kind of like economic harmony in the Middle East. Other than that, how in the world you're going to combine at least like 54 ethnic groups in the Middle East under one umbrella? And I told you, like all those people, they lived for a long time like since the Assyrian Empire under imperial system. So we're gonna claim that everybody has interest in the area. Of course, that's normal, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna be like an actual land occupation.
Now, I wanted to ask, because there are a lot of historical and cultural factors that you're raising here, and I think that's something that really has to be taken into account when we analyze what is happening in the Middle East right now. Now, I wanted to ask whether I'm sure this is the case, but I want to hear your opinion on it, that many of the Gulf country states, that they rely quietly on the U.S. for security. And now if we see what is happening with Washington openly backing Israel militarily, do Gulf leaders suddenly feel like their interests are being sidelined?
Not really. I think they were expecting that. For one reason, they asked for it. At the beginning, they asked for the United States not to use their grounds and their bases, and that's what happened. The United States didn't use it. Now, let's look what Iran is doing. Iran is trying to affect the economy of these countries. We have to look at the geography. Ballistic missiles is needed for attacking Israel, but any missile could be targeting the Arab countries. Due the distance and the geography. So if they are precise enough, the Iranians, to attack, as an example, one embassy in the embassy region of Riyadh, which is the United States embassy, this means they could be precise. So attacking all those economic infrastructure of those Arabic countries, it's in purpose. So now the Arabic countries had to understand of course, something else, that they found too many sleeping cells, or Iranian sleeping cells, even in Egypt. So the Arabic countries had to understand, it's not the idea of protecting them. The idea is like we're reaching the point to really clear the ground, clear the threat of that expansion dream of the Persian Shiite system, that it's not going to stop before attacking him. So the idea is not the United States defending him or not. They are living that situation. And the United States agreed to their demands not to use their lands. But in the meantime, it's still been targeted. And actually, to be honest with you, I'm still kind of surprised why they did not really create a coalition somehow to start sharing in operation with the United States. What they're waiting for, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, it's been attacked by 1,000 missiles. What would you need more than that? So is that kind of like retaliations against the American bases in the area, or targeting actually the economic infrastructure of those Arabic Gulf states?
Now, we also hear that Iranian Kurdish forces say that they may enter Iran with the backing of the CIA. What can you tell us about that?
Well, eventually, the United States is an organized army and is going through steps. I hear a lot of questions, and it's really weird questions. People saying that the United States doesn't have plan. United States, number one power in the world, doesn't have plan, and Iran has plan. That's a weird question. But anyway, the United States is going through stages. So we cleared the first stage by attacking all the marine forces, trying to protect the oil resources. 20% of the oil resources, energy, comes from that area. So that was maybe the main interest of the United States, number one. Number two, we were trying to attack all the launching missiles and all their drones, aircrafts, defense system, air defense system, so we can clear the atmosphere, so we can go ahead and fly again in stage number two, which is like, the head of the department, Mr. Hickseth, that's what he said. We are moving into stage number two, which is we're going to go now and start bombing the infrastructure of the Iranian regime without any defense. Now, number three, definitely the United States is clear at that point. There is no soldiers. There is no soldiers of the United States in the ground. Now, how is that taking us to stage number three? There is 52% of the Iranian population not represented in the government. The government is a solid 48% Persian people, the one in the middle. But we're talking about Baluch, Azars, Kurds, Arab Ahwaz, and Arab in the south area at the Bandar Abbas area. All those people have been oppressed, and those people never been a part of the what's called dream of Persian Empire or Iran. So those people are ready, mobilized, they're going to be mobilized, but we were waiting for a long time to clear the space for them and give them the air cover so they will be mobilized. And there is something here very important just to mention. It's not just about the Kurds. 2 days before this war started, J.D. Vance, the vice president, he was in a special visit trip into Azerbaijan. And we know that North Iran is considered South Azerbaijan, which is actually like third the geography of Iran. So is Iran in a bad shape? Yes. Is those people going to be, or are those people going to be mobilized? Yes. But something very important, like even in the Persian area control, which is the middle area, the Persian race control, this area, normally in any election, you will find like at least 50 to 60% of people sharing in elections. So there is a lot of people that stay in the middle, and they could be mobilized, right or left. So most people in that criteria are the youth, students, university students, which is the most important thing for them is economy. Those people, most likely, they're going to go against the system once they feel the system is weak. So even within the solid components of the Iranian system, they might lose at least 50% of the support. So I think the stage number one is done. Stage number two, now we are bombing all the infrastructures and all the hot cores of the regime. Number three, all those fractions that are not presented within the Iranian government, they're going to be mobilized, and the United States is going to give them an air cover.
Okay, Frank Musmar, advisory board member of the Abrahamic Business Circle. Thank you so much for joining me and for this very interesting conversation. And that's a wrap for World Talks. Thank you for joining me, Marie Caso. And make sure that you stay tuned with TVP World and tvpworld.com. Goodbye.